Welcome to So Very Easy. My name is Laura and spring is here and there's no better time than making a new set of curtains for my sewing room window. Now I just want the toppers of the curtains because I like my curtains as open as I can in my sewing room. I love all the natural light, but I also like a little color on the curtains. And I have found the most appropriate fabric for my sewing room. It's Sewing Tools from Timeless Treasures, and it's got spools of thread, scissors, buttons. What's really great about this fabric, there's so many different colors in it. It will go with any color, so whatever your favorite is. I was going towards the orange because, well, I thought the orange would be fine, but when I found the turquoise, well, that was the color for me because it's one of my favorite colors. Now these curtains are very easy to make and they're going to be reversible. So choose two of your favorite colors and, well, it is easy. Now I was able to find really nice thread that's going to match this, and that's going to be important because the reversible, you're going to want to have thread that is going to blend in so you will not see the stitching. To make the curtain toppers, I've bought 2 yards of the main fabric and 2 yards of the contrasting fabric, and that's going to give me 4 tops for the curtains, and they'll both be reversible. So with each yard, you're able to get 2 toppers because they're going to be 18 inches high from the curtain. And 18 and 18 is 36, so you'll be able to get 2 panels from each yard of fabric. So to cut the fabric, it's very easy. We are going to have fold, here's the fold, and here's the length of the fabric with the selvage here. You're going to measure over 18 inches and cut an 18-inch piece out. Then you're going to be able to remove the selvage here because it's very important to remove this. And then you will be able to do all of your fabrics the same size. So once they're trimmed up, then you're able to sew the layers together. So take your right sides together and sew them together. And you are going to sew down the long side on both sides, not the short side. You're going to sew down all the way down the long side. And when you do that, you're going to have this big tube. And that's what you want. Now I would recommend that you sew a 1/4 inch seam because you really won't need more than that. And once you have this long tube, take your seam and press it to the darkest fabric on this side and this side. So you're still going to have this big tube, but the seam will be pressed nice and flat. The next thing we need to do is do a rolled hem on the short side here where you have the little end. To make a rolled hem, you're going to first of all turn your fabric a 1/4 inch. And then you would turn again a 1/4 inch. And you're going to stitch right along that edge. So you can sew a little bit and then just as you come along, turn your first 1/4 inch, then turn the second 1/4 inch. Just take your finger and just press it like this. And then sew again. And then as you go along, you do the same thing. You fold it under twice, give a press with your finger, and continue sewing. And by doing that, it'll save you time from having to go to the iron and press it once to press it over again. So now we have this very large tube, and it has a rolled seam on each edge. Now the fun happens. From the seam, you are going to measure up 4 inches and mark it all the way along. And be very careful that you do keep it very straight. So once you have your 4-inch mark, you're going to fold it along your 4-inch mark all the way. So what happens is you now have a 4-inch hem here, but when you turn it over, you also have 4 inches here. So you need to press it on the 4-inch line and put the fabric nice and flat, and you can press the whole thing so you have 4 inches on one side and 4 inches on the other side. Now we need to stitch in the ditch, and that means you are going to just sew right along this seam and go all the way along this seam with a straight stitch, and then flip it over and stitch in the ditch all the way along this seam. Now for this one, I want blue thread in the bobbin because I don't want to see that hem. So I'm going to use a matching thread in the bobbin. So this is what I have, my 4-inch hem, a big opening, and another 4-inch hem. Now all the hard part's done. The next is going to take you one more seam to finish the curtains. And this is going to be for you to decide where the seam is going to go. We're going to make an area where you can put the curtain rod. But before we decide that, we need to decide how we want to hang the curtain. For example, if I'm going to have the curtain rod in here, this is how my curtain is going to hang up. And if it's reversed, this is how it's going to hang up. If I decide that I'm going to do the curtain rod in this side, this is how the curtain rod's going to look when it's hanging, and on the reverse, this is how it will look hanging. So now the toughest part of this project will be deciding where you're going to want to put the rod to hang up the curtain. So you can choose the rod here, or you can choose the rod here. For myself, I've decided that I want this as the bottom of my curtain. So my rod is going to come into the top here. Now, in order to finish this rod, you need to mark 1.5 inches down all the way around and sew the 1.5 inches with a straight seam all the way along. So all 4 curtain toppers are now done. We've stitched the layers together here, we've stitched the layers together here, and we did that 1.5 inches stitching along the top. Now in order to work these curtains, all you need to do is use the second hole. So the top here, that 1.5 inches that you did, that's going to be a little ruffle on the top. So you're able just to bring the curtains all the way through. You have a choice. You can have the curtains hanging this way, or you can have the curtains hanging this way. And if you really can't decide, well, you could always do that 1.5 inches from the bottom, and then you would have options of hanging it up this way. So here you have the curtains this way, or you can have the curtains hanging this way. And no matter which way you have them, they will look nice from the roadside. Quick, easy, reversible, nice looking from the outside, nice looking from the inside. Well, it can't get much easier. The hardest part is going to be, well, choosing the fabric. I'll put a link in the description to the fabric that I used, and as always, thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. Feel free to subscribe, and as always, come on back and let's see what we're sewing next time in the sewing room. Bye for now.